This year, one of the hottest employment-related topics at the Hawaii State Legislature is the minimum wage. At this point in session, 2 minimum wage bills are still alive, and they both currently propose to raise Hawaii's minimum wage to $15 an hour. When considering these measures, legislators hear from a lot of stakeholders and interested parties on how the minimum wage will affect our economy. This video provides some additional thoughts for consideration. As an initial matter, we should note that the state's minimum wage just went through 4 increases in 4 years. Specifically, from 2015 through 2018, we saw 4 separate increases to the minimum wage, the last of which took the state's minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. Hawaii's businesses are still trying to adjust to those increases. So the question that comes up now is, how does a wage increase affect the economy? Some studies have indicated that it could take about 10 years to realize the full effect of an increase in the minimum wage. For instance, an American Economic Review study concluded that increases in the minimum wage reduce employment in the long run, and found that an increase in wages has a negative impact on employment over 10-year intervals. Additionally, we have also seen some other municipalities on the mainland raise their minimum wage as high as $15 per hour. According to an article in Forbes magazine, this steep increase could result in a significant drop in the employment rate for those cities, which may see as much as a 3% decline in employment. One thing to keep in mind is that the minimum wage is not meant to be a living wage. Proponents of an increase to the minimum wage claim that all people should be able to earn a living wage. However, the purpose of the minimum wage is not to serve as a living wage. Rather, the minimum wage was created for entry-level positions and unskilled and untrained workers. By working in entry-level positions, these individuals are able to develop skills that would eventually enable them to work in higher-level positions that pay them a higher wage rate. The living wage, on the other hand, is simply the amount an individual must earn to meet their basic needs. Clearly, the minimum wage is supposed to be less than a living wage. Another question we must address is that of who is earning the minimum wage. One of the most common arguments for increasing the minimum wage is that there are many workers who are trying to support a family while earning just the minimum wage. However, according to Pew Research, a nonpartisan research organization, as well as data we get from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, most minimum wage earners are actually young and work only part-time. Of the figures you see here, the one that really stands out is that only 1.4% of all workers aged 25 and older are actually paid the minimum wage. Therefore, based on these figures from independent sources, the argument that many minimum wage earners are trying to raise a family on their wages is somewhat misleading. If the minimum wage is increased to $15 an hour, some negative consequences of such a steep increase could include the following. 1. Cost of business will keep going up. According to several studies and articles, Hawaii continuously ranks among the worst, if not the worst, state to do business in the country. For example, Wallet Hub ranked Hawaii dead last out of all 50 states, and Forbes ranked Hawaii number 46 on their list. By raising the minimum wage, employers will face additional costs in increased wages, wage compression, and higher payroll taxes. 2. Cost of living in Hawaii will go up. To account for the increase in labor costs, businesses will raise the cost of their products and services, which means that these costs will get passed on to consumers. When this happens, everybody loses. 3. Businesses, especially the smaller ones, will be forced to shut down. The National Retail Federation found in a survey that 37% of all small retailers would see serious threats to their ability to continue operating under a minimum wage of $15 per hour. This is particularly concerning for Hawaii, where many of our businesses are small mom-and-pop shops that already have very small profit margins. When businesses shut down, employees lose their jobs. 4. Lower skilled jobs will get automated. As noted, the vast majority of minimum wage jobs are in food service and retail. As we have seen over the past few years, many businesses have already been forced to convert those jobs into self-service checkout stations and iPads that have replaced food servers. 5. We could see a tremendous loss of jobs in Hawaii. According to the Heritage Foundation, a $15 minimum wage in Hawaii could lead to a loss of about 34,000 jobs statewide. Raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour would curtail employment opportunities, especially for less skilled workers. Many of these jobs would be in the food service industry, where workers actually earn much more than the minimum wage because they also receive a substantial amount of money in tips. So the final question becomes, should we raise the minimum wage? Well, based on all of the foregoing, it seems Hawaii businesses are not ready for another wage increase, especially not one that would raise the minimum wage by almost 50%, in other words, from $10.10 an hour to $15 an hour. For the vast majority of companies, the payroll is their biggest expense. Raising their biggest expense by such a substantial amount could be devastating for those companies. Finally, it is worth noting that according to a poll commissioned by Lend.edu, 52% of millennials do not think the minimum wage should be raised to $15 an hour. This data is similar to a study conducted by Pew Research, we found that 51% of Americans aged 18 to 29 oppose a minimum wage increase of $15 an hour. If you are a business owner, manager, supervisor, or HR personnel that is concerned about an increase in minimum wage, here's what you can do. You can call, write, or email your legislator to express your concerns. There's a good chance one of the minimum wage bills gets passed this year, especially if the business community does not speak up against these bills. If you want to find contact information for your legislator, please go to www.capital.hawaii.gov and then click on the legislator's icon in the middle of the screen. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of HCC TV. Have a great day.